This game is absolute fucking bullshit. And you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and tell y'all why. But first, how's everybody doing? Hello, it's Duke Sparrow, and yeah, I decided to change things up a bit, kind of stray away from the whole EDP 445 shenanigans, and kind of dwell into something a lot more, more original and almost not too recent. That is actually very somewhat recent, as in a month ago. Whereas we had the we got the recent Callisto Protocol DLC, the final transmission, which is technically a story DLC, which is a continuation of the main game's story, I guess. But anyways, we're not really here to talk anything about that. In fact, we're going to be talking about the bullshit game, which is the Callisto Protocol itself, which is basically a Dead Space spiritual successor made by the people who made the original Dead Space trilogy. Glenn Schofield, the lead designer of those games, he basically had a huge part in this game. And man, I was hyped for this game prior to its launch. I was hyped, and because I'm a horror fan myself. I like horror games, especially when they're set in outer space and whatnot. And the Callisto Protocol, of course, this was before the Dead Space remake ever came out, so I guess the Callisto Protocol was going to be like, I guess you could say, a great diversion. Nah, nah. In fact, it actually turned out to be a polar opposite. This game turned out to be the biggest pile of shit I've ever played in my entire life. And here's the thing: not even the patches made things even better. In fact, this game it didn't even make anything better. In fact, the game was still convoluted nevertheless. But yeah, let's get right into the game itself. The story itself, y'all know the story. The game's been out for more than 6 months. It's about Jacob Lee, crash lands on Callisto, an alien outbreak happens, yada yada yada. Now, let me put it to you this way. The story in this game is absolutely unoriginal. There's nothing really unique about it. Josh Duhamel, although I love him as an actor, I mean, his character as Jacob Lee, man, he could have been played by anybody else. You know, it really doesn't. It doesn't. I mean, let me put it to you this way. Like I said, Josh Duhamel, he's a good actor, but man, the Jacob Lee character could have been. Man, he's not even a likable character at all. In fact, he's such a boring individual. It's such a fucking spit in the eye when I think about it, because Josh Duhamel, when I heard that he was going to be part of this game, I was hyped. I was hyped, and I guess that was an extra reason why I wanted to get into it. Not to mention, I like Josh Duhamel's performance in the Transformer movies as Captain Lennox and whatnot. But man, even Josh Duhamel couldn't. Not even his mere presence was enough to really make me even love this game in general. No, in fact, this game itself, the gameplay, I mean, it's visuals. I mean, story being shit, the visuals are actually beautiful, to be honest. But holy hell, the combat is absolutely fucking trash. First and foremost, you'll be noticing that this game is mainly melee based combat. It centers on melee, meaning you have to get up close and personal with enemies with a baton. But this is where the combat system really fucks you over. That is the most, is because you dodge enemies left and right. It's such a redundant, tedious ass game mechanic where 9 times out of 10, no, in fact, let me scratch that. 10 times out of 10, you're gonna be dodging every single enemy throughout the entire fucking game. I mean, there will be moments when you're gonna be able to shoot enemies from a distance, but there's gonna be most of the time you're gonna be taking up enemies up front and close and personal. The combat, like I said, is fucking trash. And there are times when sometimes the combat is not really working in your favor. Sometimes you get hit regardless. It's just so fucking cheap, man. Like, I don't understand exactly what the developers in Striking Distance was going for, honestly. Yeah, I get they were going for a in your face, up close and personal melee combat. But dude, couldn't they have come up with something a lot more better than this bullshit? This is just, what is this? Throughout the game, you're going to be dodging enemies left and right, and like I said, there'll be times when you're going to be able to shoot enemies from a distance. And yeah, I do mention shooting because there are actual guns in this game. You don't just use a baton in this game. In fact, there are some there are actually guns in this game. A hand cannon, a skunk gun, which is I guess a handheld shotgun. You got the riot gun, which is a pump action prison shotgun, and you got the assault rifle. You also got the tactical pistol. That's it. I mean, here's the thing about the weapons. They are, while their upgrades are, they have their own benefits. They're sadly underwhelming. It really feels like you really spent all that money just to get such an underwhelming experience from the weapons themselves. I think the only thing worth upgrading is probably the hand cannon, the riot gun, and the baton. But everything else is you could pass on it, just leave at level one. But it gets worse. It gets worse. The enemy variety in this game is fucking lame as hell. In fact, you're gonna be encountering the same enemies throughout the entire game. You'll differentiating from prison infected biophage, a security guard biophage, frozen biophage. There's no variety. Not to mention the bosses themselves lack originality. In fact, there's one boss called the Two Head, which was such a pain in the ass prior to the patch where you could be able to reload your gun a lot more faster and healing yourself a lot more faster, which by the way was a pain in the ass when this game first came out. Nobody liked it, including myself. Nobody liked that Jacob took a billion fucking years to reload his damn weapons or select something or even heal himself for that matter. Nobody liked it. But yeah, the patch came. It somewhat made the game better. Not really, because it more or less was the same. And another thing that really bothers me the most is that the boss, the Two Head, appears in the game at least maybe 4 times. 4 different times. It's like it's lacking originality. It's like you can never really tell that they're different from one another. Yeah, the Two Head, it lacks originality. The bosses lack originality. The enemy variety lacks originality. I think the only thing that really I could say is a great positive from this game is that the actors themselves, their voice acting is pretty good. Yeah, it is. It's pretty good. I like the voice acting, but still, their performances are not really enough to really, get you invested into the story. Not to mention the chemistry between Danny and Jacob in this game. There's no chemistry. There's no reason to care. There's no reason to root for anybody. There's no reason to root for any of the characters in this game. I mean, there's the Elias character played by Zeke Afton, who I mean, I feel like they could have done something more with him. He's incredibly underrated as Elias. He was great as Elias, but man, they could have done so much with my boy Elias. R.I.P. my dude. Man, I. In conclusion, this game could have been no. In fact, let's not say in conclusion. This game could have been so much more. Actually, I feel like this game could have had. I feel like this game might have potential at some point in time in the future. But for now, I feel like this game is such a huge disappointment. However, the DLCs themselves, they actually gave us some extra skins to kind of give us some variety on the weapon skins, such as weapons and the suits themselves. Oh, and by the way, they also have this game mode called Riot Mode, which is it's basically your standard endless enemy wave type of game mode where you can just survive as long as you can before you die. I like that game mode. I mean, I could probably say my highest round is probably maybe 57, and then I just got bored and just purposely killed myself. But yeah, I mean, the Callisto Protocol, it's such a huge letdown, man. It This game could have been so much more. I mean, I'm actually surprised. I'm actually really surprised that the game itself came out the way it did, and it's like you're probably thinking, well, did the developers think this through, or they just let this be the way it is? I mean, if a Callisto Protocol, if let's be hypothetical for a second, if a Callisto 2 ever comes out, I feel like one of the things they should scrap out entirely is the bullshit combat system, because I'm gonna guarantee y'all this: nobody's gonna miss it. Nobody's gonna miss dodging left and right in the sequel, if ever a sequel does happen. That is, it's I wouldn't miss it. I'd be like, okay, well, I didn't like it anyway in the first game. But yeah, this is actually just my little mini rant. This is me talking about the Callisto Protocol. It's my thoughts about it. This is Duke Sparrow signing off.